Hi, folks. This is Nick Palizzi from The Sacred Science, and I'm here today with my friend Colette Baron-Reid. Colette is an internationally acclaimed intuitive counselor, psychic medium, and spiritual teacher. She has given me some eerily uncanny insights into my own life over the past year, and it's an honor to be sharing her wisdom with you. Today, we're going to be delving into a contemporary way of using ancient mystical tools to connect to the conscious universe. Kind of a mouthful, but it's going to be amazing. Colette, how are you?
I'm awesome. It's so exciting to be here with your tribe. It's so great. So excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, some of the things that you've told me, you and I met maybe a year ago, and I think some of the things that you've told me about my life, and it's not just like, some crystal ball, this is going to happen for you, but really just kind of delving into, I don't know, like the subtle energy field and telling me things about myself that are occurring right in front of your eyes. It was pretty like humbling to witness.
Well, it's funny. I'm really glad that you said that one sentence about telling you what's going to happen, because that's the absolute worst thing somebody could ever do when they go to a form of ancient mystical tool like a divination tool, because that's not how they were created. Yeah. Even though, I've been doing the work that I do now for the past 30 years. It's been 30 years this fall. So people typically go to oracle cards or they go to any other divination form and say, tell me what's going to happen. But we create reality. And that's the thing. The conscious universe is our partner, right? So when you really, yes, obviously I have access to see things, and I see a grid, I see the whole matrix. I'm just weird. Okay. So that's, but anybody can seriously, every single person has something called oracular consciousness. The consciousness of the oracle lives in every human being. Its human potential is like so amazing, but everybody has been trained to forget it. So that's why I'm super excited about talking to you about this today.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. So you're saying that, so we're all born with this in a way.
Yes.
And in some ways we're trained out of it?
We are conditioned out of it. So there's two ways that we're conditioned out of it. One, the way we're built is one. So I think that's the cross we all bear, because our entire lifetime is really about evolving ourselves into a greater awareness. You're either going to spend your life awake or asleep. Now, most of us are going to spend some of our life in spiritual narcolepsy, which is about not falling asleep at the wheel. Like, I'm manifesting. And so when we're little babies, right, and we're little kids, we see the mystical. We see it. It's just natural to us, right? Because it's natural. Our five senses develop. First of all, we're born this way. So we're born with the capabilities of a limitation to our five senses. Like a bat, for example. I love to use a bat as an example, because a bat's hearing is something that we couldn't possibly fathom. And it experiences the world in a completely different way than we experience the world. Like a dolphin uses sonar to see where it is, et cetera. Its intelligence is very different. The way it engages its playmates, et cetera. So our sensual universe that we experience, the material reality that we perceive, is limited by our sensory perceptions that are within that. Now, we are multisensory beings, but if we aren't trained, if we aren't really trained or supported in that, we eventually lose it, because like the first 6 years of our life, you look at developmental psychology, we're going to start to identify ourselves by what we tune into by osmosis in the environment. So if we have closed off parents, if we've been taught, no, don't there, that's not real, that's not an imaginary friend, no, you didn't really see that ghost, there's no fairy in the garden, no, the plant didn't speak to you, right? Like, then you're told, oh, that's bad, that's no good, right? So, so we're also little computers that take in information. And so we're conditioned by our ancestral information and knowledge, our current environment, and then the social repression that is engaged in a collective way where we tune into that energetically. So it's not that anybody has to actually do it to us. So we feel that conditioning that our culture does on us, for example. That's why I'm fascinated. I read, my research is all about mystical traditions. It's also about the history of religion, the history of philosophy. How did we start to believe what we believe? When did we start to see ourselves as separate from the rest of the world, right? Like from that conscious universe that lives in plants, that lives in blades of grass. When did we forget that we could heal ourselves, right? Even in if you look at the Bible, and I don't want to start a weird conversation with anybody because I'm very much about unity and diversity, but I think there's things to learn everywhere. When it says, and greater works than these shall ye do, there's all these statements throughout the Bible that we are capable of so much, the loaves and the fishes. Hey, you can do this and more, you can part the Red Sea, but we don't know. We don't know how. So people like you in your tribe, you teach people, you show people how these ancient traditions, like you go into the jungle, you go into these, earth-based traditions, right? Which is what I come from too, and find forgotten ways for the ways to heal the modern experience. Right. And so anyway, I'm talking too much. I could talk the whole time.
No, I mean, my thinking is, two things. One is, the idea that people say, well, if it was here, if there was something to know, then I would see it. Right. I mean, because how could a child be trained not to see something that's right in front of their eyes? But you're saying, we are really, we're amazingly capable of not seeing things. I mean, there's an amazing, there's a really great video. It was viral a couple of years ago of like, you watch the screen and you're supposed to watch the cheerleaders doing their crazy thing.
And then the bear goes.
And then the bear goes in and walks out, and like, you don't even know it happened, and nobody knows it happened. And then you like watch it again and you see the bear plain as day because you're watching for the bear instead of watching for, was it cheerleaders? Was it like somebody?
Yeah, it's attention. It's the attention deficit that we all have because we see what we expect to see and we don't understand what we don't know. So you made a point. I want to go back to that one point where you say people will believe only what they see, what they expect to see. But if you understand how the universe is, I think the new science, the frontiers of science, is the language of mysticism, right? So we bridge science and spirituality. My idea of porn is science books, right? So if you look at how quantum physics has described our world, that 4% that we can perceive as material and 96% of it is invisible to us. But it doesn't mean it isn't there. It means that our capacity to experience through the five senses, the expectation of the intellect, right? So, and because we are memory-based creatures, we're trained to see what we remember and know, right? Then that's the small sphere of availability that we have access to. But that does not mean, well, it's not about not meaning. I mean, 96%, the invisible is where all the action is. Yeah. And shaman, for example, I mean, my background is young. Obviously, I was born this way. I was born seeing things, in the garden, born seeing things that weren't there, born knowing things about people I shouldn't know, like accessing information beyond me was very traumatic. It wasn't fun. I didn't have like people in my life going, oh, that's really great. It was like, no, cut that down. And then eventually being in a place for me where like multiple possible dimensions have just been there. It's just like, I've sort of like, I go one door and the other. And for me, that was normal. And then it became something that was like psychotic for me until I got clean and sober 32 years ago. Cause I ended up in trouble as a result of having too much information. Drugs and alcohol was a way for me to escape it. And actually it never helped me escape it. It just made it worse. But I was like, it must be the drugs. Right. But anyway, I digress. So my point is that some of us have this access point, but there's nothing in our modern world we aren't plucked out of the tribe and said, you're the one that's going to go to shaman school now, right? We are the ones that end up in mental hospitals and told that we don't belong or whatever. We never feel like we fit in. Mm-hmm. But within every single human being is the capacity to go beyond our limitations because it's available to us. But it's like who has the right map? So shamanic trainings will give you a map, and they have a very specific methodology of accessing a mythology as well about the lower realms, the center, the earth, the middle earth, the higher. They have it distinctive this way. If you look way back to the Celts or the Norsemen, they had their own versions of the same thing. Siberian shaman have another version. You look at ancient China, they saw the world as a series of evolving stories in motion. And you have all of this older knowledge that stopped serving us when we split our attention to seeing God or the conscious universe or the relationship between us, and what was powerful was over there and that we were somehow separate over here. So I don't know if I'm going off on a tangent on this, but I think your people will really understand this. I think your tribe will get this, because this is the greatest split in human experience, was the split between the consciousness that is greater than us, as 96% of this multidimensional awareness that's available to us, and that 4% that we so tightly cling on to, like, you know, and the obsession for certainty within that teeny weeny little dot keeps us in there.
Yeah. You know, I'm remembering when I was young, and part of the reason why I got in this path is because until I was 16, I had a lot of crazy experiences, you know, it's mostly at nighttime, where I would see a lot of stuff, and I didn't know where to look at, you know, I had no context to put it into. I was raised Christian, and
Me too.
I had there wasn't really a place for this stuff in that experience. I mean, it was either I was possessed or I was schizophrenic, and I was like, I feel like I feel fine during the day. I don't have any problems. But then as the, you know, when the lights turn off at night, then all of a sudden, you know, those moments before sleep, I'm just like, it's miserable for me. So a lot of this was
why? Want to know why the moments before sleep? The moments before sleep, you said something so profound. Moments before sleep, moments when you just wake up, is when you are no longer so tightly wound to your egoic sense of personal self, where you are now an impersonal self. And it's the impersonal self that does the healing, that can see the spirits, that can connect to auditory things, that can move to another realm of awareness where information is available to us. But most of us are terrified of that. So because we are not taught, there's no one to teach us or say to us, that the wise person in the tribe, say that happened to you in a tribe, they would recognize that you could be the next high priest or the next shaman or the next healer. And they'd say, come with me, right? And then the course of understanding how to work with this energy is self-forgetting. It's always the same. You master yourself. You have personal mastery over that side of you that is not a co-creative power. It's the one that screws you up. The self-identification is now it's in order to turn it into a proper filter to create reality, right? Because we can. Then you have this access, which is very neutral, very, very neutral.
You know, what's interesting is I actually learned how to turn it off.
Yeah.
Which is almost like the reverse process. So you're talking about, you know, how to open yourself up past that 4%. But I think in some ways I started trying to close it for a while, like 2 or 3 years worth of trying to close it. And then I started getting migraine headaches, and I had to just, like, you know, let it come back in again. But I mean, there was like this closing period, and you can definitely forget about this stuff too.
And you can feel it.
Oh yeah. But so your work is really about not only helping people that, you know, just come to you in need of you know, clarity in their lives, but you're also helping people, you know, who want to tune into this and start doing this work themselves. You're helping them see and, like, open up past that 4%.
Yeah. So let me explain my work, because it is a little, for years I did this work individually and I taught small workshops, etc. And then of course I got to Hay House and wrote a bunch of best-selling books, and then created a whole, you know, trademarked energy psychology process, blah, blah, blah. But my interest has always been about ancient mystical traditions of divine dialogue. That's been my passion, you know, really my passion. So I created all these different oracle card systems. So because I don't take personal clients anymore, like people have me on speed dial, like, you know, you do, Chris Carr, some of the, you know, I do work still with a few small group of influencers. I wanted to find a way that I could help the masses understand that it's not about developing psychic abilities at all. It's about getting reconnected to your partnership with the conscious universe so you can co-create your own reality. So my whole body of work now is about showing people how they can make reality real, right? You know, that how they can use their innate capacity to shift and work with using intention and tuning into this consciousness, not to become psychic. I could care less about teaching people. I mean, it's like people, that doesn't interest me in the slightest. What interests me is in getting people empowered so that they can use the tools I give them. And they come back like 2 months later, go, oh my God, you will not believe what just happened. I tracked my intention with the cards. I watched it. I saw where I was in denial. I did this and I kept doing the actions. I kept following the guidance, and bam, the universe handed me something I was completely unprepared for. But oh my God, it was better than I thought. That's what I want to help people do, because I know it's possible.
So the thing that we stumble across all the time, I'm sure you're doing your work, is trying to put some of this stuff into words. I mean, it's really hard when you're going into, you said the action happens in the invisible realms. Like I personally believe that to be true. But when I'm listening to you speak about this, I like, part of me wants to hear you explain kind of like the infrastructure of what we can't see. I mean, do you have any way of describing that? Like giving us like, something that people could actually.
I have a way of, yes, I do. Okay. So I believe that all of us dream the world into being through our consciousness, through a number of things. One, we have a blueprint that we come here for. Each person that incarnates has something, like, and you feel that something by what you're fascinated by what lights you up, by what draws you, into community, etc. Through those moments that you are really, when you forget about yourself and you're just jazzed on something, that's kind of like, that shows you your path, right? That really does show that. And every single person, and purpose finds us. That's what I believe. So there's that. So you have this individual piece, and I believe that we all have a unique, authentic, inspired life, or we can. But I also believe too that then the human condition then sets up, it's almost like a video game where you get all these like, oh, I have to overcome that obstacle. Oh, wait, I have to go over there. I wanted to go there. Oh, but I learned this. I'm afraid now, right? So, like it's like, if you could see it like that, like it's a series of obstacles and like courses you have to take. Like very much like the hero's journey, and the human myth is so true, right? So then if you were to look at the invisible as a matrix, but not like the bad matrix that we in the Matrix movie. It's like there is a matrix of energy. It's like a grid, and I actually see things like a grid. It's like zillions of threads that we weave into reality, in the fabric of reality. They're going zim, 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 and then we intercept other people, and they move. And if you go in one direction, it's like, and then you shift your awareness, and then you raise it up here, and then all of a sudden you meet different people, and and then the interception points are what we call synchronicity. And when intentions are sent out and you focus on it, so whatever you focus on a consistent basis becomes where your attention is, that's all of a sudden starts to develop in the outer world. And not one person can tell me that's not true. I literally will say to you, you may not say it the same way as I say it, but if you really sit down and do a synchronicity timeline in your life, and you see all those things that put you on these new directions that are exactly where you needed to go at the right time, that you didn't plan, but the form was perfect, but you wanted a different form, but the essence was exactly the form that you weren't thinking about, right? Nobody can come back and tell me that doesn't exist for them.
Mm-hmm. So true.
It's so true, right? The thing that gets all of us is that there's two things going on. One, this amazing system that exists for all human beings, all of us. And by the way, we're just little blips. We're here like blip, right, at a moment. And then we come back again and do it again, right? So the little time that we get to be here, we may as well master that. And that's what I'm here to do, is teach people how to master that matrix. It's like, if you want to say it, those words, I don't know why I'm using that word today, but I think it's because your audience would understand that. So it's a conscious matrix. Here's the other thing. It's not a thing. It's alive. That's the other thing. And we're born from it. Like, it made us. So it knows if we're going to go, okay, I want to go make this happen. And it doesn't have this is bad or this is good. It's going to do whatever you put your attention on. That's why shitty things happen to people. That's why entire mass terrible things can happen, because the organization of the psyche of an entire community that is based on hurting somebody else is going to have results.
Mm-hmm.
Because the conscious universe goes, oh, it's just another experience, right? It's not going to say, oh, we better save you. You know what I mean? It's not going to do that. That's why people, when they say, oh, please save me, God, no. You start seeing yourself as that person who is already saved, right? And so you'll even see studies on this, like Viktor Frankl wrote an incredible book, Man's Search for Meaning, all about his experience in concentration camps when he was in Auschwitz, because he chose to go there because his parents were going to go. They couldn't be saved. So instead of leaving the country, he went in there and ended up in the camps and wrote this whole thing about the people who actually survived and thrived, whose bodies didn't totally deteriorate. It was based on the way they saw the world and the amount of compassion and connection that they felt with every living thing, including like a tiny little dirty rat in the room or an ant, or, you know what I'm saying? So we have the capacity to tune in no matter where we are, no matter what terrible conditions we are, to make a difference. But the point is that, Okay, I went off on a tangent now. So how does it work? Okay, so wait.
But I have another question. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, wait. Hey, let me ask you a question. So where do you feel the individual souls reside in this matrix, or are we really all connected, all the same source energy, and just wearing different flavors and masks and sort of slightly separated from each other, so that the one source consciousness can sort of see itself and play this game, and we can all sort of
Yes.
learn from one another. So I mean,
Yes,
where
yes.
do you see us all in this whole thing?
Door number
That's
two.
not fair. I totally let you cheat. I'm not going to give you any answers. You
Door
got to tell me,
number two.
where do you
You
feel
actually said it better than I could have said it. I really, because, and here's why I know these things, right? And so I've had the most extraordinary experiences that without drugs. Okay. Like when I got clean and sober, I'm going to tell you something. I saw a 30-foot angel that scared the shit out of me. I mean, I've been in different states of consciousness better than I ever did when I was on drugs. I don't know why it took me so long to figure this one out. So through deep trance meditation work, I have been to places that you can string me up upside down. There's no way those things weren't true. They were real and they were just in a different reality. Right. So I believe that we are both the artist, the paintbrush, the canvas, the paint, and that when we can either do it in a teeny weeny, very limited way, where we're going to see ourselves as separate, competing for limited resources, giving our power away to outside conditions, looking for the conditions to dictate how we're supposed to feel, and staying in fear most of the time. Thank you very much. Or we're going to have an expansive consciousness where we see ourselves as connected to all of life. Even in the Bible, that whole story about Adam and Eve, I'm convinced, has everything to do with all of a sudden, what happened to human beings that screwed them up? Well, they saw themselves as separate. That's missing the mark. That's what the word sin means. You know, it means to miss the mark in Greek, in ancient Greek. Sin means to miss the mark.
That's interesting.
We miss the mark. That's what that means. Anyway, just if anybody's very interested in that kind of conversation. But it's like, it fascinates me, all this stuff. Because don't forget too, I also feel very compelled by this because I got a second chance at life. I shouldn't be alive. I almost died a couple times in my 20s. So here I am looking at this and looking at this very question, because I ask that all the time. Yeah. But I've seen evidence that your description was true. So much evidence.
That's where I got it from. I mean, sit in enough ceremonies, whether it's sweat lodge or plant medicine, and those things become revealed to you, after a while. But the idea that this is all a big charade, really, that we created for our own, not our own entertainment, but our own growth and expansion as one consciousness.
Totally. I want to throw something in there about psychotropics and plant medicine, because I, unfortunately, since I'm clean and sober, cannot partake, because I gave up my past a long time ago to others, had too much of that, but because it was too interesting, I never wanted to come back. However, the truth is that people say, oh, you made that up. Where do you think you go? Like it's like everything is in the inner planes. It's not like out there in some other, universe that's over there. No. It's our consciousness and the way we view ourselves is the prevention. It's in the inner planes. We go within to find everything. The inner dimensions, all those other dimensions are inside us, because we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We are the exact version of source, right? So where does source go? It doesn't look outside of itself, it goes in. And we are inside it. So if we want to get go down the rabbit hole with this.
Yeah.
What do we do with our day-to-day life? Because that's what I'm interested in. Yes, this is all true. So what happens when I want to make a business deal? Mm-hmm. And let's go there now. What is the contemporary person who doesn't live in a tribe that isn't, or the Oracle at Delphi that doesn't exist now, who doesn't have an entire population bringing her food? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And presents and all that. So she's taken care of, right? We don't take care of each other the way we do in a tribe. We don't have that anymore. We have an economy now.
Yeah.
We live in this economy, right? We live in a world where a social order is a structure and a system. Oh, it doesn't particularly work, but this is what we have to work with. So I'm really about being practical. Let's get practical, okay?
Yeah.
What do we do with the person that wants a new job? What do we do with the person that wants to have a baby? What do we do with the person who wants to be a better mom? What do we do with the barista that sees themselves as a great artist and works part-time? Okay, so we have to have some kind of navigational tool, given that we aren't taught it. And this was why I became so passionate about taking the ancient systems and figuring out a system where I could blend them together. Because honestly, it's as if I took 16 different ancient divination tools and put them in a Vitamix. Okay. And then seeing the different flavors, how if I could take a little bit more of that, how did that taste? That didn't work until I found the right blend. Okay, so you're going to see little tiny pieces in my oracle systems, if you really look at them, of I Ching, Norse runes, minor arcana of the tarot, major arcana of the tarot, but only some of it. You know, the psychological concepts brought forth by Jung, archetypes, like all, you know,
So
all of these things mushed up together. But each one of them, this is one of them, I'll just say it. So, and then put together in what's called a lexicon. So a lexicon is language. You know, you talk about language, right? So a picture speaks 1,000 words. So the images that are provided in the cards are images to stimulate that relationship to the conscious universe. And then you work with synchronicity. Every time you pick up a deck, it's synchronicity. It works, but I can't explain synchronicity. That's nobody's, Jung said it what it was, right? It's meaningful coincidences. You can't make this shit up. Okay. Sorry, beep, you know, whatever. You just can't. How do you make this up? You can't. Like, I tested this a million times. Every single one of my decks is tested before I put it out in the world. And people come back to me, oh my God, this is so uncanny. How does it know? It doesn't know. You turn it on. You turn it on as soon as you pick up that deck and ask it to give you an answer. And how you ask is very specific. You have to ask it properly, otherwise it won't work properly. And it will reflect things that you can't see. It's like looking at a mirror. In our mirror, like now we would see our face and I'd see the fact of it. You know, I've got a picture behind me, a white thing. But oracle cards show me all the things in the invisible that I can't see with my visible eye and my face, right? It says, here's the dominant thought that you had this morning. Here's the resentment you have about so-and-so. Here's the unresolved stuff that you have in the past that's going to affect your choice. Here's the infinite possibility that you have. Oh boy, look at that. And if you do this, 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 and this, and you could get that, but that's not available to us when we're asking the question.
Yeah.
It can't. We don't have the capability. Human beings cannot. We are not built for as much information as we could have access to. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
So this is kind of like a triple rear view mirror almost, like, you know, where you're sort of like, instead of trusting, you obviously can't see behind you. You have to use devices to sort of see things that are in your periphery that you just literally don't have enough eyeballs to see. At least in the current state of most people who, and yours, you know, me included, like, I probably have some atrophy of those muscles from living in the real world. Like, you know, you go to your job every day, and I have 2 kids, and you're trying to make your life work. But then at the same time, the part of you that has this greater awareness is sort of becoming more and more narrow. And like, you're starting to see just, you know, it's like a horse with blinders on. You're kind of starting to see what's right in front of you as opposed to like everything else. So you need a tool, a device of some sort in order to give yourself the perspectives that you're not quite
Thank you.
seeing.
Perspective. So I'm going to say, does everybody need the tool? Anybody who wants the tool, that is not definitely anybody who wants to expand their consciousness and really get serious answers to whatever is like, what is my next right action? Basically what it does is show you what you should know already, but you don't, right? So that's why people think, I love to re-educate people, because there's so much ignorance around what oracle cards are, because of how they started being used since the medieval times, right? They started being afraid of them because they were evil or something, right? Because they took away the power from the priest, from the power, right? Even since pre-Christians, and we're going back to the origins of monotheism, where everybody was taken out of their tribal communities, where they had their own worshiping altars in their homes, and they didn't need to have a common place to worship or whatever. They just had their own relationships to gods that they had. And all of a sudden now they were told, no, you got to come into the town, you got to pay money, you got to go here. This is where we do it. You're not allowed. You can't have it. Really, because it became a socioeconomic issue, right? So that's since way back then, we started to see our conscious access as something that went. So oracle cards were never meant, like if you look at the tarot or whatever, they were meant to dive deeper into the consciousness of how we create the future now, because the future is a projection of the present. Time is not linear. That's the other piece, because in that matrix, and it's hard for us to grasp because we see everything. And plus, since we created time, which isn't not even natural, right? Since the Julian calendar was put into place in the Roman time, like we completely screwed ourselves up, right? Because that's like, it goes like this and it doesn't.
Yep.
Everything is now. So that's really what they were originally meant to do. Ask, what is the next right action? What can't I see? And then what is possible? So that'll give you a glimpse of what's possible. But it's not going to be totally for sure, right? Because now that's not totally true either, because if you change at all and you want to raise your awareness, you change your prediction anyway, right? So that's the thing why I tell people now, prescription rather than prediction. If you want to really evolve quickly and create a reality for yourself that's brilliant, like if you ask one of those people that go into the jungle before they go in, I bet you any money that whoever read them that they had no decision to go there, all say, oh, you're going to die, right? No,
Yeah.
I'm going into the jungle now and I'm going to do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And because they chose to do that, their options changed. So you have to always allow people multiple options. People don't want multiple options. That's our other problem right now, is because everybody wants certainty. And especially back then, when they first started, going off on a tangent with these things, when they were outlawed by monotheistic faiths, and there aren't in lots of other places. They're like, that's just a tool we use.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's dial the gods and see what's happening, right? Let's go. What do I do next? Right. You still have to be part of the conversation. You can't take yourself out of the equation, and everybody wants to. Tell me what's going to happen. Really? Okay. Then you're just saying, oh, it's nothing to do with me. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then you're going to be an armchair astronaut and stay at home now waiting for that thing to happen, right? No, you have to get on the journey, right? So that's why now, more than ever, the tool is crucial. Anybody who wants to stay aware and awake, I've got a whole school now for that, right? It's just, and is to show people how to have that personal mastery. You don't need a third party in between you and the divine or the conscious universe. You just need a way how to pick up the phone.
Yep. So how, for anybody who's listening, who is looking to do this, looking to open up, themselves, broaden their horizons, kind of clear out some of the mental clutter that's preventing them from accessing this information, like what can you give them a couple steps? And
Yes, let's talk about that, because that's key. So I love that you said clear out the mental clutter, because now let's go back to something that is crucial. You need to get into the neutral observer. So I'd like to talk about fear, if I could. What separates us? Even if you have the tool, if you aren't in a more neutral state of mind, the cards are going to reflect your fear and what could happen, right? They're not going to be as helpful. You'll get nebulous results because you are too connected to the fear of what could happen and the need and the attachment to the certainty that you're seeking, and they will become tricksters, because that's not what the conscious universe wants for you. You want to start talking to the conscious universe, it's going to tell you the groceries. It's going to say, hey, this is the way it's, go away, go in the front. Oh, my husband's like trying, now I'm on the Zoom call. My husband's trying to walk in the door and the dog's going to bark. Oh, here we go. Oh, well.
You called it in.
That's okay. We are obviously live in my house. We are live. And we have dogs barking and a husband walking in the door. That's okay. Come on, Bizoo. Oh, well. I apologize.
Don't worry about it.
Great. Well, at least you guys know that this is definitely real and raw, and we are having a conversation today on your big page here. Okay, so let's talk about the process that I created. So because I had so much experience with this, I realized that what prevented the flow of information or the real truth about what was really going on, if I were to look at it, and I started spending a lot of time on this a number of years ago, when I started teaching workshops that were based in something called active imagination, which is in shamanism, really, it's that vision quest when sometimes you do it with plant medicine. Yep. You don't have to. In my case, you can do it without it, right? So, and then what do you see when you go there, and what does it mean to short circuit your subconscious or your fear to go to a place where you have unlimited possibilities? And then who talks, right? Who's the one talking? So the anatomy of fear is such, let's talk about that first, right? Is such that you are no longer connected to the matrix of potentiality. You now limit your potentials because you are in a survival mode where you are sourcing and looking for potential threats. Right. So that's always, so therefore you're looking for to expect something very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's doing its job. Our subconscious mind and our fight flight, that is really at the common denominator of modern society. We're mostly in that stress, fight, flight. That shuts down our intuition because we are specific to what we're looking for, right? So we think we're tuning in to the conscious universe, but what we're really doing is just going, this is as far as we go, right? So we're quite constricted and narrow in our potential approach to what is possible, right? And I think you would agree with me, Nick, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So that's really good to know intellectually, right? So how the heck can we do it? Well, therapy, I don't believe, is the answer when you want to continue to anchor a story. Not to say that there's anything wrong with therapy, but if you want to get out of it, right? If you want to get out of that fight flight, you need a process. Now, I love tapping, for example, our friend Nick Ortner, right? He helped me when I couldn't help myself with my motorcycle, right? So, but what I found was that I could show people a really amazing technique, and you'll see, those of you who are really interested in the shamanic process or Jung, right, because it's all about the archetype, I'll do it with you right now, and I'm going to invite all of your people right now on Facebook Live to do this process with me, okay? And the process is called Get On Your Bird. So I'm going to invite everybody to identify their stress, and if you could just write down 3 words that would describe when you feel that fearful, oh shit, like I can't get this done, I've got too much work, my kids are crying, like, oh my God, North Korea, like hurricanes, but all of that, because we have plenty of things to be worried about right now. How's that? What does it feel? So Nick, tell me 3 adjectives, and just 3, no more than 3. How would you call it?
Trapped.
Trapped.
Frustrated.
Trapped and frustrated, and one more.
Pain, I think. Pain.
Pain, not fear? Okay, pain.
Pain, yeah.
Pain, okay, good. So that's trapped, pain, and frustrated. So if trapped, pain, and frustrated was a place you inhabited, because the environment of the mind is 95% of our personal experience. It's 5% in the physical reality, 95% is mental. Mm-hmm. So if that was an environment that you found yourself in, what would it look like? If it was a place, just whatever comes to your mind quickly.
It would be hot, but not light, be like gray and dark, but hot and
hot, gray, dark. Okay. So close your eyes and just describe the place that comes up in your imagination.
It looks kind of like Mordor in
Mordor. Okay.
But smaller.
Yep.
And with lots of eyes looking at me though. But
that's freaky.
But lots of eyes looking at me, but also like small, confined, hot.
Okay. And so would you say, by looking at that environment, that seems to be pretty accurate for you? If you were to describe a place you've temporarily inhabited that was painful, that was frustrating, and that was, what was the first one? Frustrating.
Painful, frustrating, and what was it?
Well, what is it?
Trapped.
Trapped. Okay, trapped. Okay, so you're trapped there. Okay, great. Sorry. So now what I'm going to ask, I'm going to just do this with you first, and I'm going to do it with everybody. Okay. Sure. So I'll show them how it works. So just allow that to come to your consciousness and keep a view on it. And are you the one looking at the place, or are you the place?
I am the place.
You are. Are you the place? So are you looking up at Nick, or are you Nick looking at the place?
I'm looking at the place with sort of a little figure of me potentially in it.
Okay, fantastic. Right. So I just want to differentiate and move you a teeny bit more, because we just need to move our minds, right? So, because when we're in the place, we identify with the place. When we recognize that we're the one looking at the place, we aren't so much identified with it, because then the person could possibly go somewhere new. So
no, wait. If I was in it, I would probably be looking at it. I'm not in it. I'm feeling great, like the last couple of weeks. So I'm sure I'm trying to remember it. But
yeah, that's fine. Just close your eyes again. You're only there temporarily, okay? So if you could allow yourself to leave this place, if something could come and take you away from it, would you go?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So imagine a winged creature just shows up out of the blue. It could be anything with wings, anything at
Mhm.
all. It gives it magical powers to make you move.
Mhm.
Could be a dragon, could be a bird, could be an insect. What is it? What's the first thing that shows up for you? Um,
It's an eagle.
it's an eagle. Okay. So the eagle is going to invite you on its back. So if you're too big to get on it, it will grow, or you will get small enough to get on its back.
Mhm.
And I'd like you to move your sits bones so you could feel yourself actually settling into the back of the eagle, feeling very comfortable, very safe. Let me know when you're there.
Okay.
Okay. Now the eagle is going to take you high, high in the sky until all you see is blue.
Mhm.
Just pay attention to how your body is feeling now, different from where it was in the beginning. Is there a difference between you being up in the sky and you being in the middle of Mordor trapped?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now I'd like to invite you to look over the side of the eagle and see how large or small that place actually is now from where you are up there. And can you even see it?
It's like a tiny little bright, like fireball, but way down in the middle of
Right.
like some kind of a landscape.
So, and what else is there beyond it? Is there other things to see beyond it?
Yeah, there's like green. There's like green.
Neat.
Yeah,
Okay,
green sort
awesome.
of. Yeah.
So would you say at this stage, being up there, that you are no longer trapped in the original place?
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally, right? Would you make a different decision here on the back of the bird than you would if you were in the middle of Mordor?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Your decisions on a subject, if it was the same subject, would you act differently? Choose
Yes.
differently? You would.
I
Okay.
would feel I would act much more patiently and rationally.
Right. Okay. And there'd be more possibilities open to you. Would you say
Mm-hmm.
that's true? Okay.
Yes.
So just open your eyes. Your eagle will drop you plop on your chair.
Here I am.
All right. Do you see how that works? And
Yeah.
what happens is, I mean, you aren't in the stress, but when somebody is in the stress and they say, okay, where am I is the first question. Where am I? So I'm going to invite all you guys to do that right now and ask yourself, when I am in stress, when I'm in fight flight, when I feel afraid, where am I? And just let whatever comes to mind and write it down. And so, Nick, you'll see that when we are stressed, there's certain hormones because we're made of chemicals, right? So the hormones that flood the body relate to cortisol and adrenaline, epinephrine. So all of these different cocktail create this way also to shut down our frontal lobe, right? So the part of us that works is the reptilian brain because we have to run fast. That's what we're telling. And our bodies are set up for that perfectly, right? Because we think T-Rex is coming. And one of the reasons why there's so much obesity in Western culture as well, and especially around the middle, is because we create more visceral fat from stress. And the visceral fat is there to control and protect our organs, right? So what has this got to do with oracle cards and oracles and saving? Right? Well, what it has to do with it is that we cannot tune in to the conscious universe when we're in fight flight. We can, when we get on our bird and we are no longer identified, we just move our mind. You notice you didn't change any of the circumstances that caused you stress.
Yeah.
You didn't say, that's bad. I got to leave. Oh, I got to analyze that. Or so-and-so did this to me. All you see is, this is the landscape. I'm going to call my bird, going to get on the bird. Then I'm going to let the bird take me high. Let my body also get serotonin, dopamine, all these great cocktail of feel-good chemicals going through my body. I'm now capable of intuition. Why? Because I'm not searching for anything as a threat. I'm curious now. And that's how
It was powerful. It was amazing. It was amazing to feel in that exercise that there actually was this extra thing that I could access. Like I
yeah.
don't, when you told me to envision something, like, okay, fine, I'll just sure, I'll play along. Then I'm like, oh, wait a second, there's something there coming to get me right now. Like I don't get it. Like there's something good coming down to help me. And it's something that I think that you've mentioned in your work before, and I want to kind of get to that in a second, but you've mentioned the idea of just being able to call in your guides. And to me, even to this day, with all the shamanic work we do, like that isn't part of that isn't true for me, or like, at least I haven't experienced it directly in my reality where there's a guide. Now, grandma ayahuasca, Pachamama consciousness, absolutely. Like there's one source, there's this origin of me that I'm very
Right.
connected to. But the guides always feel hard for me to kind of do myself. But even a little drill like that, where there's like an eagle, let's just call that maybe
Right.
a hand of one of my guides potentially be like, okay, sure, I'll help you. Like,
Right.
but it was nuts. Like just to feel that, it really was. I wasn't expecting it to be like I was going to have a real experience there, but I was like,
Right.
oh, this is happening for me right now. Very
Right.
interesting.
You know what's
Yeah.
so funny too? I love it when you stop, go, well, I'm not really feeling like that right now. Well, I happen to know this works, right? So, and here's the thing: you cannot, once you engage the unconscious, because that's what that just did was you gave prompts. Because I didn't tell you what to see. You just came up with it. Every single person you can't make it happen. You can't force it. You can't make a turkey come when an eagle wants to come. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember one woman going, I would never have picked that. I'm like, no. And each bird, by the way, here's how it gets really interesting, because you become your own oracle. So you're the bird that takes you away from your stress, where you're in mortar. Interestingly enough, that's where orcs get made, right? That's where all the negative stuff is. Very symbolic. Eagle is about a higher consciousness, and it is an angelic consciousness, but it is to raise your consciousness, raise your awareness, see above. If you got a raven, it would mean magic and synchronicity. If you got a cardinal, it represents prayer. It's like the Christian prayer. So it's like the cardinal. What is cardinal for you? If you got a goose, it's about giving things away, right? So if you got a dragon, it's about personal power, right? If you got a unicorn, right? So everything means something also. And that's what I teach actually in school. So I teach people how to recognize the extraordinary ability for them to be their own oracle, internal oracle, once they learn how to quickly, it's the simplest thing, turn on that consciousness. The unconscious, the dreaming mind, is the one that's connected to the conscious universe. And it will not speak English to you. It will speak in pictures.
Yep.
It speaks pictures. It's so easy. It took me years to actually perfect that little tiny exercise. And I can break it down for anybody who's interested. I teach psychologists how to do this. And it's amazing, because you will get an opportunity to go somewhere new.
So everyone who's watching right now, I'm sure a lot of people, including me, want to dive deeper with you.
Okay.
I have the privilege of having you on speed dial. So, you'll probably get bombarded by some phone calls from me this week, but everybody else, like who's watching, like how can they experience something more? I mean, this I'm sure is a
Okay.
great.
So let's do a card for everybody. How's that? Right. Because
Okay.
so people interested in learning how to do that, was called the Envision process. Hay House has a course called Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind, right? That's what it's called right now. We're going to rename it, but you can learn how to do that there. But it is something that I teach in Oracle School, but I want to show you guys how to use the oracles, because that way you can do this every day for yourself. And if you join my Oracle School Insiders group on Facebook, that specific meditation that I did is recorded and you can download it there. So you can actually have that for yourself. But let's choose two cards for this group. Okay. So and the question is, what do you need to do in order to stay in alignment with your highest purpose? Okay. This is an action.
Yeah.
We got something called TikTok, which is really interesting, because the message is you are not running out of time. So, and to release time. So recognizing that people tend to be goal oriented, right? That the idea that if I want that, I'm going to go attach to that form and go to that. And there's only so much time I have, right? And that's saying you have to release time and stay in the now. Release your attachments to form, like even with healing, because your whole thing's about healing, right? Release the attachment of how the form of that healing is going to show up, and don't worry about the timing on it at all, because things are instantaneous as much as they are stretched out. They are both true. Mm-hmm. And the second one is the fates. So two things occur to me with this card. One of them is the tension that we all feel right now, and that's why TikTok makes sense, between two truths. One, I know I create my own reality. And then the second truth is, I have to surrender to life on life's terms. So we weave between these two pillars, right? Then we take the threads of our intentions and weave them between these two hands, like the cat's cradle, right? And the fates here remind us that even though there are certain things that we can't control, we are capable of miracles. And it doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter, the projection that we have of anything, because that's about a projection of time, that the future is is right here in our fingertips, right here, if we are willing to release all of our expectations, our attachments, our sense of, it has to be, and stay present in the beingness that where all the action is. And that's what that exercise will enable us to do too. So you can go to my website, colettebaron-reid.com, to choose these for free, right? Because people may not have the cards. I think you're also sending out an email, are you not, Nick?
Yeah. They'll get an entire download of what you're doing in the coming week. We're going to be shouting you out big time. But what is Oracle School? Can you just before we wrap up here, can you just talk about that for a second?
Totally. So Oracle School is my personal legacy, and when I say it's my personal legacy, I have taken 30 plus years of being an expert in metaphysics, in divination techniques and oracles. My fascination with neuroscience and quantum physics and universal law, right? And it's a huge community where you come to take a course called Personal Mastery. Everybody starts in the same door. It's like going to Hogwarts for adults. Right?
So good.
You literally experience the magic of your consciousness using meditation techniques and all these different things that I've developed, and the oracle cards as a guidance and as a portal to your own magic and to connect to the conscious universe. So you use these as a navigational tool for personal mastery. I teach universal law, and we literally become serious, badass manifestors in there. And that's basically what Oracle School is, to teach you are your own oracle.
So when is your Oracle School event running? When does it run until?
Oh, today, it starts today. You can look at the free videos today, which you'll be sending out. And then school starts, school is starting to be offered on September 20th. We have a 7-week course that the course is delivered over 7 weeks starting October 10th with videos with me and tons of videos that are in the library. And then everybody practices. And I got to tell you something, out of the 1,000 students that have already taken it, only 4 left, and only because they had too many busy jobs and stuff. Like, nobody leaves Oracle School once they come in. Nobody wants to go home. Yeah, nobody does. So you get to stay there and play in a tribe. We have very specific rules about how we speak to each other. People feel so safe there. You are able to express yourself in there without fear at all of having any controversy. We stay out of religion and politics, unity and diversity, and that everybody is equal. And the entire school is based on helping each other. So it's all about selfless service. It is a fascinating.
Good. That's amazing. Can I join Oracle School? You've already kind of blown my mind open today, so I think I'm ready.
Well, I will give you that as a gift.
Thank you very much. Colette, is there anything else you want to say to this lovely audience?
Yeah, I just want to say that, right now, this time in human history, things are really, really tumultuous, right? But, but if you do look at history, we forget that it's always been tumultuous, right? So, but the one thing that is different now in our time than it was before is that more and more of us are recognizing that we are powerful co-creators, and that consciousness is something that we can't deny, because there is an evolution in consciousness that is the first time in human history where we are evolving into our potential, or we have the possibility to.
Yeah.
Take advantage of everything. If you don't come to me, I don't care. Go to somebody. Learn about consciousness. Learn about the collective unconscious. Learn about your power. Don't give your power away to anything or anybody else. You have it in you. That magic lives in here, and we are all connected. And that's the other thing. Once you really get the hang of that, you'll be shocked at what you can possibly, create. You can.
It changes the way you look at everything. It's magical stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
It's fun. Thank you. Now I can. I put a spell on my dog, so I'm kidding. I don't do spells. I'm kidding. Poo, 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 poo.
Gotta be careful with the
No
words you use.
witchcraft here. No witchcraft. Oh my God, this is so great. Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, it was an honor.
Thank you.